Welcome to the GRE test prep program, Ask the Professor, brought to you by TrboTest. And as you probably already know, I am Professor Konstantine Onapolous, and I am your instructor throughout this program. The first question on Ask the Professor says, for which of the following positive integers is the square of that integer divided by the cube root of the same integer equal to 9 times that integer? Quite a question, and of course it stumps a lot of students when they see this on the GRE, but it's actually very simple, and let's walk it through. The first thing we do, of course, is ascertain the given data. They want to know what the square of an integer is. That same integer has to be cubed, and it'll equal 9 times the integer. And which of the integers here did they give us to pick from, A through E? All right, so solving it, the first thing we do was when they say square of an integer, just write it down, x squared. It's very simple. Get rid of the words, get it into math form, and you'll understand it quickly. Cube of an integer, of course, again, right into a math term. We have the cube of integer, 3 radical x. Then it says 9 times the integer. Well, we already determined that the integer is x, so we'll make it 9x. That's 9 times. So far, it's much easier because we can see it. But let's go ahead and plug those in. We have here some question answers, and there's circles, so we know it's only one correct answer. Remember, if it has a square, it's 2 or more. If it has a circle around the answer, when you see it on the GRE, you immediately know it's only one. So here we use back solving because they want to know which one of these integers works. So we have to remember first, of course, an integer is a whole number. It's not a fraction. It's not a decimal. So we have 5 of them to pick from. We know one of them is correct. So if we look at these, we have to be able to satisfy all 3 factors. It has to be squared. It has to be cubed and equal 9 times the integer. So we have those 3 factors. So immediately we can look at A and C, 4 and 16, and we know they can't work. All right, the cube root of 4 and 16 creates a non-integer. We need the answer to be an integer. So we can throw out A and C right up the top. We eliminate those. So now we're left with B, D, and E. Of course, B, if we plug it in, B, when we square it, is 64. Okay, that worked. But when we take and divide it by 2, can we make it the same as 9 times 8? Remember, it has to be 9 times the integer has to equal what the square was. So no, of course not. That's 72 versus 64. It doesn't work. D says 27. Well, 27 squared works fine. We know that the cube works fine. We know that 9 times 27 gives us the same answer. So yes, D is correct. At this point, we could stop on the GRE. There's no reason to go on to E and waste time. But for our purposes here, let's go ahead and look at E as well. If we look at E, 125 squared gives us 15,626 over 5. Okay. Now we have to ask ourselves, can we multiply 125 by 9 and get 15,009 or 626 over 5? No. So the answer has to be D. Regardless of which way you come at this, D will be the only answer that works. The next question, of course, has a number line. It starts off with a 0. It has a series of hash marks. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hash marks. We have a 0 on one end. We have a 2 on the other. Of course, we have the square root radical, 3 radical p. And the question says, if the hash marks above are equally spaced, what is the value of p? Well, you can look at it and immediately realize, well, it doesn't fit integers. We can't do that. So we have to do something with it. So let's take the data we have. Right? The data we have is their hash marks are equally spaced. No problem. We know the number line starts at 0, ends at 2. It has 5 hash marks between. All right. Then it asks the hash mark in question, of course. We have that. So they want to know the value of p. Let's solve. If number 2 equals 5 hash marks from 0. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hash marks from 0. Okay, then put the 2 over the 5. It gives us an answer now. We can divide the 2 over 5 into hash marks, and we can figure out exactly what every hash mark means. So let's go ahead and do that. The first thing we do for each hash mark, we have a 0. We have a 2/5, 4/5, 6/5, 8/5, and 2. Of course, we know that 2 is 10/5. So that works out perfectly. Now, let's take and plug in the radical. We have the radical. We know the radical fell at 8/5 mark on the hash mark. So we know that P equals 8 over 5 cubed. So we can go ahead and figure out what the answer is, but we immediately should know the trap answer here is B, 8 over 5. 8 over 5 only defines where that's found on a line, not the definition of P, so don't fall for that. So let's go ahead and cube 8 over 5. 8 over 5 cubed is 512 over 125. So P has to equal 512, 125, which is D. D is the correct answer.